I kid you not, the day I started working on this project, I saw a scorpion in the clouds. Like, talk about a good sign. Hello, and thank you for watching this video. I assume that you are here because you just watched my Scorpion episode. If you haven't, I would recommend watching that first because I am going to discuss things that happen in it and you do not want those spoilers. My name is Zach Pfeiffer and I wrote, edited, and directed and a whole bunch of other stuff to create a whole new Scorpion episode here in 2025. In this video, I'm going to take you through the steps that I made to create it, share some of the stories that I had during its creation, and then I'm going to talk about a few Scorpion-related topics if you're interested in hearing that. So without further ado, let's talk about how I made this sucker. So I first committed to doing this project in mid to early December of 2024. That was when I discovered the AI technologies that I used in this video. And also, I need to give a shout out to YouTubers who inspired me to go along this process. The first one being a YouTuber called Seals Are Good. He is a Star Wars AI content creator and he's hilarious. What he does is he takes screenshots of little bits from whatever he needs and then adds AI generated character lines over the screenshot so it seems as if that character is talking, and then he makes it hilarious with his dialogue. And the idea was in my head, maybe I could do something like that with Scorpion. If I could grab enough screenshots of across various episodes and then generate their voices, I could, in theory, make it seem like the characters were talking again. Then I came across another YouTuber called Skywalker Stories, so also in the Star Wars realm. This dude, he was able to lip sync his AI generated voices with the characters on screen. And when I saw that, I was blown away. And the content that he's creating is better than what Disney Star Wars is putting out right now. But when I saw what he was doing, that was when I realized, okay, I can make these characters say what I want and act how they want using AI. And that's when I realized, okay, making an episode is within my grasp. My next step then is to write the script. And some of the script came easy. I do not claim to have technological intricacies of a satellite in my brain at all. I do not know the slightest about satellites, so ChatGPT and Grok did do most of the work regarding the satellites, and I dealt with the characters' interaction with each other. So I wrote, the very beginning where Walter is calling Happy and Toby, where Cave is calling Paige, where they're, meeting at the garage. I wrote those conversations. I wrote Walter and Sylvester's makeup conversation. I wrote those intertwined dialogues where Happy and Cave are in the car and Toby and Paige are talking in the garage. I wrote all of chapter 5, Paige and Walter's makeup conversation, and the celebration at the end. That's me, and then ChatGPT and Grok did the satellite stuff. With the script done, it was then time for me to choose the AI tools that I would use to complete this episode. I'm actually not going to mention the voice generator that I used because they screwed me out of credits. I ended up having to repurchase a lot of credits that I already bought. They are properly credited in the credits of my episode, but I'm going to recommend you don't use them if you do a project like this yourself. So how did I do the voices? Toby?
I think Toby's right. He's always right, or my name isn't Paige Janine.
Tweaked Walt's voice adaptation software. It'll record the basic tone of anyone's voice, then it perfectly mimics whatever you type in. And it is clearly not the time to unveil it.
That's actually really close to how I did it. Like, I needed a source voice, or a voice clone is what they call it, so that it has something to go off of. So I searched for an interview that the original cast member did, cut it up, and uploaded that audio of just their voice to the AI generator, and then it went from there. You could do a text to AI voice, you could do a voiceover to AI voice. I varied them just based on which one I thought would sound better, but that's how I did it. The only issue that I had with this was that the actor who plays Walter, Elise Gabel, has an Irish accent, and he is like Hugh Laurie level good at hiding it when he plays Walter. So I ended up having to record Walter's lines directly from a Scorpion episode, but it still worked out pretty smoothly, at least to my standards.
Well, I was gonna start doing the voice generations today, but I've got a train to catch, so that's been preempted for a little bit. So of course, CSX decided to send 2 heritage units on the day that I'm doing voiceovers. I'm just kidding. CSX, send as many heritage units as you want on this line. Frankly, 2 isn't enough. Just kidding. But my voice generating has been delayed again by another freight train that I gotta catch. So now we're in the process of doing voice generations. I'm on Walters. I'm testing this line of his out. Let's see what they gave me.
Oh, that won't work this time. In that case, the satellite's core systems were intact. We just needed a way to communicate with it. If it has been hijacked and reprogrammed, the code controlling it is, I'm betting, custom software from the hackers.
Now that I like.
And then it was just repeating that over and over and over again for every character line. But I am going to back up a bit because I realize I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So when I was done with this script, I also created an outline of all of the scenes that I would need so that I could grab screenshots of them from episodes. And that's why I tried to come up with a case that would keep them in the garage for the most part, because I didn't want to have to search for multiple scenes with multiple characters outside of the garage. I wanted to keep it as simple as I could. Then, with that outline done, I began rewatching the series from the pilot to Kenny and the Jet. I've never actually seen A Line in the Sand, so maybe there was a scene in there that could have helped me. Nevertheless, I watched the series all the way through and looked for scenes that matched what I would need. If I needed a scene of Sylvester on his laptop, I would say, oh, that happens in Sharknado in Chapter 3, and I would make a note on that document, and then later on I would go by and grab a screenshot of it. And I did that for every scene that I would need. The only hindrance was I was doing this around my WMU schedule, and it actually ended up working out pretty nicely. So my Mondays I dedicated solely to my classwork. I could do, like 70-80% of the week's classwork on Monday. Tuesday was one of my pre-internship days, so I was there all day. I couldn't do anything on Tuesday. But Wednesday was very nice. I had a 9:30 to 10:45 morning class, and then a 4 to 6 p.m. class, and that class usually would meet at like 4:30 just because of how it was scheduled. So what I would do is I would go to that 9:30 class, and then I would do the rest of my schoolwork after it, and then I would just watch Scorpion all the way up until 4:30 in that evening class, and I would get 4 or 5 episodes per Wednesday in just doing that. And then Thursdays I would usually get one more in. I could squeeze in a little bit before my Thursday afternoon class. So yeah, that ended up being about one season per month. It's 6 episodes per week. I was done with season 1 at the end of January, season 2 February, season 3 March, and season 4 April. I think there was one hiccup. I got really sick around the end of March, so I think I had to catch up a little bit in that first week of April, but I still finished all 4 seasons in 4 months.
All right, it is April 16th. I am at Western. I am at a break in my classes. My history class is over. My lit studies class does not start until 4, which gives me a lot of time to watch Scorpion, of course. I am at Dumpster Fire, and I think I should be able to finish today. So without further ado, let's get started.
Then, with the series watched, all the notes made, I was ready to begin voice generating, which you saw the video already, how that went. With the character lines generated and the scenes to go with them, I then started using Runway AI and their lip sync video tool. I also used them if I needed to create a video from a still image. The only issue was that when I did that for them, they usually had all their characters' lips moving, and if I needed like a a transition scene or like a, just a background to characters listening scene, it would be ruined by that. So it wasn't always the most consistent, but it was tremendously helpful. I couldn't have done it without Runway.
Alright, this is the first attempt at a Sylvester line with the Sylvester character using this AI. Let's see what we get. We're in the queue. I'm gonna have to upgrade this at some point. Alright, it's done. Alright, is this gonna be worth my time?
Scorpion? There's no scorpion water? You know that.
Not the most real looking, but definitely a lot of potential.
My first attempt at lip syncing, as you just saw, wasn't that great. I learned a little bit later that they like images where the character is straight on to the camera so they can do a better quality lip sync. And most of my pictures then that I uploaded, I tried to follow that as well as I could, and I think it turned out alright. And so that's that. I repeated that process probably 400 times over. I know that chapter 1 is 167 videos long. I just went line by line, scene by scene, generating those, character lines, lip syncing them over that actor speaking, and it was a pretty intense process, but I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. And then I used iMovie to edit it all together, put it in order, do the sound effects, all of that stuff. Doing the sound for this project was quite difficult as well, aside from the character voices generations. I ended up making a list on the outline of sounds that I would need as well, and searching for those within Scorpion episodes or just otherwise sound effects online, putting those all together as well. So that's how I did it. That's the sort of instructional phase of this video, and I'm going to use the rest of this time while I've got you here, if you would like. I'm just going to talk about a few related Scorpion topics and about how they relate to this episode if you are so interested. Thank you for watching up to this point. One thing that I wish I had done more in this episode was get Paige more involved. And this is a case where she wouldn't necessarily have the most involvement. Her role would probably be just coordinating with Director Carson, what the team found. And I wish I had either given her that role or actually taken the time to do that. But my original goal was 45 minutes, and this came in at 52, so I couldn't just add scenes later. I also wish that I had included Ralph. He is not in this episode at all, and from what I hear, he's not in A Lie in the Sand either. His last episode is Kenny and the Jet, and that's a pretty sad episode for him. I believe that's the episode where the Ralph and Patty maybe not ends. And it's not. So I wish I had given Ralph, but that would have been a whole other list of scenes to look for and character voice generation to do, and that just would have been too much. I also included myself in this project, as I'm sure you saw. I play the Homeland Security agent who comes to the garage at the beginning, who hasn't heard about the team breaking up, and gets them to all come back together. How I did that was I took a screenshot of, actually a few screenshots from the season 2 episode Area 51, where they get that CIA case, the spy plan, whatever. I just took the actor, I don't know his name, but the guy who plays the CIA agent, and AI face swapped myself onto him. And I liked that. He certainly has better hair than me. And it ended up working out pretty nicely. And then I just AI lip synced voice lines that I recorded myself over his AI swapped face. And I think it worked out pretty well. I think I've mentioned it twice now that I haven't actually seen A Lie in the Sand, the last episode of the series, and I'm going to explain that so you have that context. So I almost never watched the series as it aired. I would usually, this was back when you could on-demand programs on cable. You still can, I just don't have cable anymore. But I would, the show would air and then I would on-demand it. But then, like, as I was quite busy in the spring when this was originally airing. When this originally aired, I was in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. And now here I am, I'm 23, about to graduate college. I mean, so there's been a lot of time since then. Anyway, so the same thing happened. Season 4 aired and I fell way behind. And then I would usually buy the DVDs of the series once they came out. I have all 4 seasons on DVD, and that's my primary method of rewatching the show. So, season 4 is airing in the spring of 2018, and I am multiple episodes behind, and then I get the news that the show is being canceled. And I hate that, because I love this show. And I have no idea what to expect from the ending, though. I was upset, but not as upset as I was gonna be. Later on, I was searching for a Scorpion clip on YouTube, and I found it, but then over to the right side where those, watch next videos are, this video shows up over there. And that title is spoiler enough. I guess it could have a positive connotation, but I guess also looking at Toby's face in the thumbnail, it's pretty clear that it's negative. So against my better judgment, I clicked on it. And bear in mind, I was at a point in season 4, I don't remember exactly what episode I was on, but I did not know the outcome of Cabe's trial. It was sometime before Who Let the Dog Out, because now it's stuck in a cistern, when I watched this video. Anyway, I watched it, and I had the same empty punch in the gut feeling that most of the Scorpion audience had when they saw it for the first time. This was then compounded by the fact that I remembered the show had been canceled, and that was it. We were stuck with that no matter what. And so the day I saw that clip was the day I decided that I would not watch the last episode of the show, just because I did not want to see that ending. However, for this project, I did read the transcript to be up to date with the dialogue. And that's obviously a horrible ending for a lot of reasons, but one of which I never understood why Happy and Toby left. Like, Sylvester I can understand, especially after what Walter said, and what Walter said was completely out of character for him, by the way. I don't even think season 1 Walter would say what he said to Sylvester. And Paige, I think that Paige wasn't gonna leave until Walter said what he did to Sylvester. Like, I think it was totally recoverable if they had just kind of chilled out. But Toby, a few episodes ago, Toby, in Wave Goodbye, Toby sneaks around his ex-fiancée to sites that he gambled at. Like, if anyone should understand what Walter was trying to do, and back him up, it should be Toby. I do not understand why he left. And Happy I can understand being more caught in the middle because she has a pretty good relationship with Paige. There's that season 3 episode, I think it's Broken Wind, where they get a lot closer, and Sylvester, they get a lot closer in the season 4 opener. What is it? Extinction and More Extinction. But I would actually argue that the team member that Happy is closest to, aside from Toby, obviously, is Cape. Like, they were forced to room together for a little bit in season 3, and Cabe walked her down the aisle at her wedding. Like, I feel like Toby should have stayed because he knows the situation Walter's in, and he knows that Walter wasn't a bad guy, just made a mistake. And I think Happy would be inclined to stay for Cape, not for Sylvester and Paige in that moment, but that's just my 2 cents. They have a right to be upset with Walter for sure, because they gave him multiple warnings to tell Paige, hey, she thinks that you went to this lecture by yourself, and oh wait, now she thinks you went to this lecture with somebody, or with, they gave him multiple chances to come clean, and he didn't, and that is his fault. They have every right to be upset with him for that, but I still don't think they would have left the team because of it. Like, I think Foul Balls was actually the perfect season 4 finale. It ends with their contracts getting doubled, I believe, and, everyone's happy. They just pulled off an impossible feat for the geniuses. The only, Kenny on the jet after it is a pretty decent episode, but its only real purpose, as far as I can tell, is to just wrap up the Ralph and Patty storyline. And, I think Foul Balls, it should have ended right there if it had to end after 4 seasons. If you're a fan of Grand Theft Auto 5, you may have noticed I used 2 songs, or scores, rather, from the game. I used Sounds Kinda Fruity, which is from the final heist, because I figured it would fit well with the final mission of the Scorpion team. And then I also used Minor Turbulence because, Turbulence, Satellites, there's a kind of a connection there, and I just really like that score. Upon closer inspection, there are actually a lot of similarities between the Scorpion team and the protagonists of GTA 5, which I'll talk about right here. Starting with Michael Townley and Walter, I see a lot of similarities between these two. Both are very highly intelligent strategists. Michael is a master criminal, and obviously Walter goes for the greater good. But they also both really struggle with emotional intelligence, and you see it in their relationships, with other people, with Michael and his family, with Walter and the Scorpion team. They both tend to act really self-destructively at times. But despite their flaws, both characters show a deep sense of loyalty. Maybe not to Trevor, but, Walter to his team, his Cyclone, and Michael to his family. The biggest difference, of course, moral compass. Michael is a criminal, Walter is a good guy. Next, I see a lot of similarities between Sylvester and Lester. Both are highly intelligent, socially awkward, who would prefer to not be on the front lines of whatever they're doing. Both, I'd say, are mathematical geniuses with incredible computing skills. Sylvester, the human calculator, Lester, the hacker and strategist. Sylvester is neurotic, paranoid. Lester is kind of the same way, but he uses it for evil. Lester is paranoid, but he's cynical and he's calculating. Both characters are somewhat the moral compass. Lester is level-headed and strategic, keeping Michael and Trevor from being reckless. Sylvester does the same thing. His fears, his paranoia, he just believes in being good and helping people. I see a lot of overlapping and similarities when it comes to Happy and Toby and Trevor. Like Happy, Trevor is impulsive, aggressive, and incredibly skilled with his hands. Happy is a mechanical genius. Trevor, while he is not as technical, is very highly resourceful when it comes to weapons, vehicles, survival tactics. They're both pilots. We know that much, and both have short tempers. If you piss one of them off, you're going to know about it. On the other hand, Toby and Trevor, they're both chaotic energy in a way. They both have a really sharp way and ability to read people. That's Toby's strength. The difference is Toby tries to help people with his observations. Trevor uses his observations to manipulate people. And of course, the big difference is Happy and Toby are good. Trevor, is a bad guy, despite being the protagonist. And then finally, Franklin and Paige. They come from very different worlds, but they're surprisingly similar as well. Both are the grounded members of their respective groups. Franklin is the most level-headed. He's the mediator between Michael and Trevor, and I feel like Paige plays a similar role with Scorpion. She balances the team, who struggle with emotional and social interactions. She keeps them tethered to reality. Both characters want something better. When we meet Franklin, he's a low-level hustler. When we meet Paige, she's a struggling single mom. They are both very adaptable. Franklin, he is a rookie, but he learns very quickly. Paige, despite not being a genius, very quickly learns how to work with the Scorpion team and what her role is. And then Brad is Mark Collins. I don't have a photo comparison for that, but I think it just works. Of course, Scorpion is set in Los Angeles in 2014, and GTA 5 is set in Los Santos, which is the video game Los Angeles. So you can see similarities in between game and where Scorpion is set. There are actual, red brick warehouses that kind of look like the garage. The garment factory kind of looks similar to the garage. That building definitely kind of serves that purpose in the GTA 5 world. Anyway, that's the end of my inner Dark Viper AU GTA 5 comparison. I just thought it was pretty interesting as I was researching this project and also playing that game. There's a lot of connections there. There's one more thing that I want to discuss that I know this video is running on. The song Renegades by the X-Ambassadors. I chose that because I have a very special connection with that song. And in Who Let the Dog Out, because now it's stuck in a cistern, Clarence Micklethorpe says, "All I've heard is about what renegade geniuses you are," or something like that. So it fit. Renegades was a song that I heard by chance on AM radio. I normally listen to the Detroit Tigers on AM radio, and I just happened to turn it on when they weren't on, and I heard it. Renegades was a song that I listened to while I was sailing on the Great Lakes for the first time. And there's a video on my channel that is essentially a slideshow of pictures that I took while I was doing that, and you'll hear the piano version of Renegades. But it always has special meaning to me because I associate it with the lake and the water, and I also felt it really fit the Scorpion team well. So that's why I chose Renegades for that celebration scene at the end. So, you are watching this right now. It's online. At the time of me recording this, it is Tuesday, August 12th, 6:30 p.m. I am gonna post it in the future soon here. I got a few. I saw the first take, and there's some audio editing that needs to be redone. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to post that, I'm going to post this video, and then I'm going to post, links to it in the Scorpion Facebook groups. I'm going to DM the Scorpion Twitter page, all that stuff. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that this gets to the original cast. I actually met Robert Patrick at an Indiana Comic-Con last year. That was awesome. I think he liked that I was there for one of his lesser-known projects. I was in a line with Terminator fans to get that picture taken. Yeah, there are a lot more things I could talk about here, but I don't want this video to be as long as the episode is. It's already a bit longer than I would like it. So, thank you for watching. Comment down below if there's something you want to ask, something about the making of this project, or just about how this show resonated with you. I know it resonated with me on quite a deep level, truly. So, yeah, reach out, comment. You can follow me on X. Yeah, thank you for watching. This was 9 months worth of work, and I'm glad to see that it's come to fruition. Thank you.